When Karen's lies spiraled into a full-blown CPS investigation, I was branded an unfit father. They took my kids, but what she didn't know, I was ready to fight. Security cameras, a lawyer who believed in me, a courtroom showdown that exposed everything. This is the moment I took my family back and watched her empire of control crumble. You thought the worst was over? Think again. The moving truck pulled away, leaving behind a mountain of boxes and a silence that felt both liberating and terrifying. It had been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and the old house, with its memories, had become a cage. This new place, a modest 2-story in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac, was supposed to be a fresh start, a blank canvas for me and my 2 amazing kids, 8-year-old Lily and 6-year-old Tom. I'm David, and I work in IT, mostly from home, which I thought would be a blessing. More time with the kids, supervising homework, throwing a ball in the backyard. Life was going to be tough, sure, but we were going to make it work. The first few weeks were a blur of unpacking, painting, and trying to get the kids settled into their new school. The neighborhood seemed pleasant enough. Kids rode bikes down the street, older folks tended their gardens. And then there was Mrs. Albright, who lived directly across the street. From the moment she saw us, perched on her meticulously manicured lawn, secateurs in hand, she seemed to embody a certain intensity. Her hair was a perfectly coiffed blonde bob, her clothes always pristine. She had a way of looking at you that felt less like observation and more like appraisal, as if assigning you a score. I smiled and waved the first time I saw her. She offered a tight-lipped nod in return. That's Mrs. Albright, our realtor had warned, almost an afterthought. She's particular about the neighborhood standards, a real stickler for rules and appearances. She's been here forever, knows everyone, and definitely has a reputation for keeping things just so. In a neighborhood where many homes had been owned by the same families for decades, her long tenure and tireless dedication to what she considered order had, over time, granted her an unofficial but powerful authority. She was seen as the unofficial enforcer of unspoken rules, and few dared to cross her lest they face her endless complaints and passive-aggressive campaigns. I dismissed it then. Everyone has a right to their standards, right? But the way the realtor paused, almost imperceptibly before continuing, hinted at something more. Our first real interaction came about a week after we moved in. Lily and Tom were playing in the front yard, their laughter echoing a little louder than usual as they chased a stray frisbee. It was pure, unadulterated kid joy. Suddenly, Mrs. Albright materialized at the edge of her driveway, arms crossed. "Mr. Miller," she called, her voice clear and cutting through the afternoon air. "Could you perhaps ask your children to modulate their volume? Some of us are trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon." I walked over, slightly embarrassed. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Albright. They're just excited. We'll keep it down." She didn't acknowledge my apology. Her eyes, a sharp blue, fixed on Lily, who had stopped mid-chase, suddenly self-conscious. "Children should be seen and not heard, Mr. Miller, especially when they disturb others." It was an odd thing to say, almost Victorian. I guided the kids inside, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. It was a minor thing, but her tone, the way she made my children feel small, left a sour taste. It became clear very quickly that Mrs. Albright didn't just want quiet, she wanted conformity. Our family, with our recent divorce, my slightly less than perfect lawn, and the kids' boisterous energy, represented a chaotic element in her meticulously ordered world. We were new, we were different, and we weren't adhering to her invisible code of perfection. That, I realized, was her fundamental grievance. Over the next few months, these small skirmishes became a regular occurrence. Tom left his bike on the edge of the driveway, even for a moment. A sharp rap on the door, followed by a lecture on property aesthetics. Lily's sidewalk chalk art extended onto the curb, a stern warning about defacing public property. Our trash cans were placed out an hour too early on collection day. A detailed explanation of the municipal ordinance delivered with the precision of a lawyer. I tried to be polite, understanding. I picked up the bike, cleaned the chalk, dragged the bins back in. I even baked her a small batch of cookies once, hoping to extend an olive branch. She accepted them with a sniff, saying, "I appreciate the gesture, Mr. Miller, but I'm on a very strict diet." The plate was returned the next day, untouched. It wasn't just about rules, I realized. It was about control. About her perception of how things should be, and our family, with our noisy laughter and slightly less than perfect suburban adherence, was a disruption. The turning point came with the treehouse. I'd promised Lily and Tom a treehouse for years. Finally, with the new house, there was a sturdy oak in the backyard, perfect for it. I spent weekends meticulously planning, buying lumber and building it, piece by piece. It was a labor of love, a symbol of our new beginning. From her second-story window, Mrs. Albright had a clear view into our backyard. I'd often catch her watching, a silhouette against the glass. I assumed it was curiosity. I was wrong. One Tuesday morning, I received a call from the city. "Mr. Miller, we've received a complaint about an unpermitted structure on your property, specifically a treehouse." My jaw dropped. "An unpermitted structure? It's a kid's treehouse, not a skyscraper." "Yes, well, the complaint states it's over 10 feet tall and poses a potential safety hazard, blocking views and potentially infringing on privacy." I knew instantly who had called. The treehouse was exactly 9 feet, 8 inches tall. I had measured it carefully, and it certainly didn't block views or infringe on privacy. I spent the next two days dealing with city inspectors, showing them my blueprints, explaining the safety features. They eventually cleared it, finding no violations. But the seed of resentment had been planted. Mrs. Albright wasn't just particular anymore. She was actively trying to cause problems. Then came the neglect accusations. It started subtly. One afternoon, Lily and Tom were playing catch in the park down the street. It was visible from our house, and I was watching them from the kitchen window while preparing dinner. Mrs. Albright stopped by. "Mr. Miller," she began, her voice dripping with concern, "I noticed your children are quite a distance from the house. They seem to be unsupervised." "Oh, they're just at the park, Mrs. Albright. I'm watching them from here." She tilted her head, a patronizing smile on her face. "Are you now? From inside the house? What if something were to happen? A stranger? A fall?" "It's a very dangerous world, Mr. Miller. Children need constant supervision." I felt a surge of anger, but I bit my tongue. "Thank you for your concern, but I assure you my children are safe." Later that week, I got a call from the school. "Mr. Miller, we've had a report about your children's attire. Apparently they've been seen wearing mismatched socks and, on one occasion, a shirt that appeared to be inside out. Is everything all right at home?" My heart sank. Mismatched socks? An inside-out shirt? These were the hallmarks of two independent, playful kids getting ready in a hurry, typical morning chaos. But to Mrs. Albright, it was a sign of neglect. She must have called the school. I assured the principal everything was fine, but the incident left me shaken. She was building a narrative. The real hammer blow came after the summer heatwave. Our old air conditioning unit decided to finally give up the ghost. It was a Saturday, and the temperature was soaring. I called a repairman, but he couldn't come until Monday. I tried to make the house as comfortable as possible. Fans blasting, curtains drawn, cool baths. Lily and Tom, bless their hearts, were troopers, but the heat was oppressive. That afternoon, Mrs. Albright knocked on the door. I opened it, already bracing myself. "Mr. Miller," she said, her voice unusually calm, almost sympathetic, which immediately set off alarm bells. "I couldn't help but notice your air conditioner unit seems to be inactive, and I heard the children coughing quite a bit this morning." "Yes, it broke down," I explained, trying to keep my tone even. "Repairman's coming Monday. We're doing our best to stay cool." "Of course," she said, nodding slowly, her eyes darting past me into the dimly lit hallway. "It must be terribly uncomfortable for young children in this heat. And the coughing, I do hope they're not developing a heat-related illness. Their little faces looked quite flushed earlier." She paused, then added, "I just wanted to make sure everything was under control." Her gaze lingered on me for a moment too long, a chilling implication in her eyes. The next day, Sunday, was even hotter. We spent most of it at the community pool, trying to escape the stifling air. When we returned home, there was a card tucked into our front door. It was from Child Protective Services. My blood ran cold. The card stated they had received a report of suspected child neglect, specifically regarding inadequate living conditions and medical concerns for the children. They needed to conduct a home visit immediately. My hands trembled as I dialed the number. A calm voice on the other end explained the process. "We received an anonymous call, Mr. Miller. It was reported your home is excessively hot, causing your children distress, and that they are suffering from a persistent cough and appear dehydrated." Anonymous. But I knew. I knew exactly who had made the call, and the details she had given the operator were terrifyingly specific, a twisted version of our brief conversation about the AC. The coughing, she heard, had been Tom trying to clear his throat after drinking too much juice too fast. The flushed faces were from playing outside in the normal summer heat. The CPS worker, a kind but stern woman named Miss Davies, arrived early Monday morning. My heart pounded against my ribs. I invited her in, trying to appear calm, but my anxiety was a palpable thing in the air. She was professional, explaining that she had to investigate all claims. She walked through the house, her eyes scanning everything. The kids were at school, so she looked at their rooms, the kitchen, the living areas. She asked about the AC, about our daily routine, about my employment, my support network. "We received a report about a very hot house, Mr. Miller," she stated, pulling out her notepad, "and that the children were showing signs of dehydration and illness." "The AC broke on Saturday," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "The repairman is coming this afternoon. We spent yesterday at the community pool. The kids are healthy. They just had a cough. Well, Tom did, a minor one from drinking too fast." She took notes. "And the previous reports? About mismatched clothing, unsupervised play, and the treehouse being a hazard." I stared at her. "Previous reports? This isn't the first time someone's called you?" "Not us directly, Mr. Miller," she clarified, "but there are notes from the school and a few calls to non-emergency lines about concerns regarding the children's welfare. They all seem to originate from this neighborhood." She didn't say Mrs. Albright, but her gaze subtly flickered towards the window overlooking the street. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a one-off. Karen had been systematically building a case against me, poisoning the well, creating a paper trail of concerns. Every minor, normal parental oversight, every fleeting moment of childish exuberance was being weaponized. Miss Davies interviewed me for over an hour. She asked about my ex-wife, about my parenting style, about my emotional state. I was honest, perhaps too honest about my struggles as a single dad, but also firm about my love and commitment to my kids. She left saying she would follow up. The next few weeks were a living nightmare. CPS called the kids' school, interviewed their teachers, even spoke to Lily and Tom separately, gently, asking about life at home. My children, bless their innocent hearts, just wanted to get back to playing. They didn't understand why these nice adults kept asking them if they were happy, if Daddy ever yelled, if they had enough food. I tried to keep it from them, but Lily, being older, picked up on my stress. "Is everything okay, Daddy? Why do those people keep asking about us?" My heart ached. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just some grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." But it was a lie, and we both knew it. Karen wasn't done. The CPS investigation was ongoing, a constant cloud over our heads. I tried to be extra vigilant, extra careful. The lawn was always cut, the recycling sorted perfectly, the kids always impeccably dressed for school. I walked them to the bus stop every morning, just to make sure Karen couldn't claim they were unsupervised. Then came the flu. It swept through the kids' school, and inevitably Lily and Tom caught it. High fevers, coughs, the whole miserable package. I took time off work, nursing them, making sure they were hydrated and comfortable. On the third day, Tom's fever spiked. He was restless, his breathing shallow. I called our pediatrician, who advised me to take him to the urgent care clinic immediately. Lily, still weak but recovering, was asleep in her bed. I couldn't leave her alone. My usual emergency babysitter was out of town. Panic started to set in. I called a neighbour, a lovely older lady named Carol, who had occasionally helped me out. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried another friend, then another. No one was available on such short notice. Time was ticking. Tom looked worse. I made the agonizing decision. I would take Tom to urgent care, call Lily every 10 minutes from the car, and rush back as soon as I could. It was not ideal. Far from it, but I felt I had no choice. Tom's immediate medical need had to come first. I left Lily a note, clearly visible on her nightstand. "Sweetheart, I've taken Tom to urgent care. Call me the moment you wake up. My phone is on. I'll be back as fast as I can. Love, Daddy. I made sure she had water, snacks, and the TV remote. I checked the doors and windows. It felt like tearing my soul in half, but Tom needed me. As I pulled out of the driveway, strapping Tom into his car seat, I saw her. Mrs. Albright standing at her window, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk on her face. She was watching. I returned 2 hours later, Tom diagnosed with a severe case of flu and a prescribed course of antiviral medication. My relief was immense, but it was quickly overshadowed by dread. As I walked through the front door, the house was silent, too silent. Then I saw them. 2 police officers and Miss Davies from CPS, standing in my living room. Lily was curled up on the sofa, clutching a teddy bear, her eyes wide with fear. "Mr. Miller," Miss Davies said, her voice grave. "We received another call. This time it was reported that your 6-year-old son, Tom, was visibly ill, struggling to breathe, and you took him from the house, leaving your 8-year-old daughter Lily alone and unattended." My heart stopped. Karen hadn't just seen me leave. She had called, providing a detailed, exaggerated account, knowing exactly what would happen. She had waited until I was gone, then made the call that sealed our fate. "I had to take him to urgent care," I pleaded, gesturing to Tom, who was still groggy but breathing easier. Lily was sleeping. I couldn't wake her. She was recovering from the flu, and I couldn't find a babysitter on such short notice. I called her every 10 minutes. I left her a note. Miss Davies looked at me with a pained expression. "Mr. Miller, this isn't the first report, as you know. The pattern of concerns combined with this latest incident, which put both children at risk, leaves us with no choice. We are temporarily removing Lily and Tom from your care." The words hit me like a physical blow. The world tilted. No, this couldn't be happening. Not my kids. Not my babies. Lily let out a sob, running to me, burying her face in my leg. "Daddy, no! Don't let them take me!" I knelt, holding her tight, tears blurring my vision. "It's okay, baby. Daddy will fix this, I promise." Tom, confused, whimpered, "Where are we going, Daddy?" The officers were quiet, but their presence was firm. Miss Davies explained that the children would be placed with a foster family temporarily, that I would have supervised visits, and that we would go to court. As they led my children away, Lily looking back at me with tear-streaked eyes, Tom clutching his new teddy bear, I saw her reflection in the window across the street. Mrs. Albright, standing there, watching, and this time there was no mistaking the triumphant, cold satisfaction on her face. The days that followed were a blur of unimaginable pain and a fierce, burning resolve. My house felt empty, cold. Their toys, their little shoes by the door, their drawings on the fridge, each one was a fresh stab to the heart. I barely slept, haunted by Lily's frightened eyes and Tom's confused questions. I immediately contacted a lawyer specializing in family and child protection cases. He listened patiently as I recounted the entire story, from the Frisbee incident to the urgent care visit. "This is a classic case of malicious reporting, Mr. Miller," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Albright, has clearly targeted you. We need to prove this isn't about your parenting, but about her harassment." His advice was clear. Document everything. Every interaction, every phone call, every complaint. I started a detailed log. Installed security cameras. I installed discrete cameras on my property, covering the front and backyards, especially facing Mrs. Albright's house. This would provide irrefutable proof of any future harassment or, crucially, lack thereof. Gather character witnesses. I reached out to other neighbors, the ones who had been friendly, who had seen me with my kids, who knew the truth. Some were hesitant, afraid of Mrs. Albright, but a few, like Carol, were willing to stand up. Cooperate fully with CPS. I attended every meeting, every supervised visit with the kids. These visits were agonizing, seeing them in a stranger's home, knowing they were confused and hurting. But I swallowed my pride, showed up, and engaged positively with Miss Davies, proving my commitment. Seek therapy. My lawyer also suggested individual therapy for me to help manage the immense stress and to show the court I was proactively addressing my well-being. The footage from the new cameras became invaluable. Just days after the kids were removed, Mrs. Albright was seen on camera walking along our property line, peering into our windows and even lingering near the front door. Another time, she called the police, claiming I was playing loud music. I was sitting in silence, staring at the walls. The camera footage showed otherwise, and the police, visibly annoyed, left without further action. My lawyer meticulously compiled all the evidence: the city's clearance of the treehouse, the school's confirmation that the clothing issues were minor and not indicative of neglect, my medical records showing I sought immediate care for Tom, and now the video evidence of Mrs. Albright's continued harassment. The court date arrived, and I walked in, terrified but determined. Mrs. Albright was there, of course, looking impeccably dressed, her expression one of righteous indignation. She truly believed she was doing the right thing, saving my children from what she perceived as an inadequate father. Her lawyer tried to paint me as unstable, neglectful, overwhelmed. But my lawyer presented our case, systematically dismantling Karen's fabrications. Ms. Davies from CPS, having seen my full cooperation and the mounting evidence of harassment, provided a more balanced report to the judge. She acknowledged the initial concerns, but also highlighted my consistent efforts and the suspicious pattern of repeated, often minor complaints. The turning point came when my lawyer showed the judge the security camera footage. It showed Mrs. Albright's constant surveillance, her attempts to fabricate new incidents. The security camera footage, documenting Mrs. Albright's persistent surveillance and attempts to create new incidents after the children's removal, clearly demonstrated her malicious intent and pattern of harassment. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, watched the footage with a grim expression. When it was over, she looked directly at Mrs. Albright. "Mrs. Albright," she said, her voice sharp, "it appears your concerns are less about child welfare and more about a sustained campaign of harassment against Mr. Miller and his family. This court takes such abuse of the system very seriously." The judge ordered the immediate return of Lily and Tom to my care. She also issued a temporary restraining order against Mrs. Albright, prohibiting her from coming within 100 feet of my property or children, and from making any further contact or complaints unless there was genuine, verifiable cause. Walking out of that courtroom, seeing Lily and Tom running towards me was the most profound moment of my life. I hugged them tight, inhaling their familiar scent, feeling their small bodies against mine. We were a family again, intact. Life wasn't suddenly perfect. The kids had been through a traumatic experience, and we all needed time to heal. Lily sometimes still had nightmares, and Tom was a little more clingy. We started family therapy, and it helped us talk through what happened, to reassure them that they were safe, loved, and nothing was their fault. Mrs. Albright did not vanish quietly. Initially, she seemed emboldened, convinced that the court had simply made a mistake. She began to subtly test the boundaries of the restraining order, standing just beyond the 100-foot mark, glaring or making loud, pointed comments about unfit parents. Whenever my kids and I were outside, I caught her trying to photograph our house from public property, though my lawyer quickly sent a cease and desist. The neighborhood's quiet disapproval quickly turned into overt coldness. People who had previously offered polite nods now actively avoided eye contact or crossed the street when they saw her. Carol and a few other neighbors, emboldened by the court's decision and the clear evidence of her malice, started to actively advocate for us. They recounted to anyone who would listen how Mrs. Albright had pulled similar, though less extreme, stunts with other families over the years. She found herself ostracized from community events, ignored at the grocery store, and even faced a petition to have her removed from the neighborhood HOA board. The constant social pressure, combined with the legal consequences of her actions if she violated the order, began to chip away at her defiant facade. It was a slow, agonizing process for her, as her carefully constructed image of community matriarch crumbled around her. Finally, after several months of living as a pariah, unable to control her environment as she once had, Mrs. Albright sold her house and moved away, seeking a new, unsuspecting community to regulate. My kids were taken away. It was the darkest chapter of my life. But it also showed me the incredible strength of my children, the unwavering support of a few good friends, and my own capacity to fight for what truly matters. We rebuilt our lives, stronger, closer, and with a renewed appreciation for the simple, noisy, imperfect joy of being a family. It's been a year since the court gave me my children back. The house feels whole again. Mornings are filled with laughter, cereal spills, mismatched socks, and rushed goodbyes as Lily and Tom bolt to catch the bus. The echoes of fear and silence that once haunted these walls have faded, replaced by bedtime stories, movie nights, and backyard campouts. The scars are still there, emotional bruises that take time to fully fade. Lily still asks, sometimes, if those people will come back. Tom clings to me longer when I tuck him in. But we talk. We heal together. Mrs. Albright? She's gone, sold her house quietly and left town, her legacy shattered. No more reports, no more stares, just the sound of our lives returning to something that feels like peace. I still have the security cameras, not out of paranoia, out of wisdom. I learned how easily truth can be twisted when someone's obsession crosses a line. But most of all, I learned that love isn't soft. It's fierce. It fights. It endures. They tried to take my family away, but we're still here, and we're stronger than ever.